Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast for a week 2 preview. I am, as ever, your host, Annie Davis, and with me today, I've got a brand new guest on this podcast. Not only is he a Bills fan, he's also one of the parts of the Bills from Afar podcast. With me today is Bills fan Tim Rudge. Tim, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, Andy. How you doing?
Good, yeah, good, thank you. Good to have you on my podcast. I've been on your podcast a number of times, had the fortune of having that. So it's good to have you on the other way around.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I've not made too many guest appearances on other people's podcasts. So I feel certainly very privileged to be on here. And, as you said, I'm part of the Bills from Afar podcast. And obviously, based on the name, it's very Bills centric. So it's quite nice to come on somewhere and just talk generally about the NFL and other teams and all the matchups and that good stuff because I enjoy that nearly as much as watching the Bills, to be fair. Right. So, no, really excited to be on. Happy to be on. Thank you.
And of course, you are part of our listeners' charity league. Not only
Yes,
are you part of it, you also played me in week 1 on the
I
listeners'
know.
charity league, and you beat me quite convincingly. I had a bit of a stinker.
Yeah,
I mean, I had Jameer Gibbs got 17.4 points. I had Seahawks got 11 points on defense. Sanders got 9 points from the kicking perspective, but then it's the rest of my team. We got Olave got 3.10, Cooper got 3.60, Cade Otton 1.5, Dontavian Wicks didn't get a single point. Whereas you had the Bears defense that got 25 points. You had Khalil Shakir, which is obviously part of your team name. He got you 13.2
yeah.
points. CeeDee Lamb 13.6, Montgomery 16.3, Rashad White 16.60. So overall, you had a pretty good week on fantasy against me.
Yeah, I did notice. I did have it in my back pocket just in case, you are hyping up the Dolphins too much or, ahead of Thursday night football. I did keep it in my back pocket, but I did notice it was quite a convincing win. And to be fair, you listen off the players. I mean, I know we've talked on my podcast. I'm in so many leagues, I lose track of which players are in which leagues kind of thing. I just try and have a nice spread of players across all the leagues, so I know someone's going to do all right at least, hopefully. So I enjoy fantasy football. It's all part of, it adds enjoyment to our experience, I think, and not just ours from the UK, but just everyone's. I don't know if I know obviously you're a Liverpool fan, but I don't know if you play like the Premier League fantasy, but
Yeah.
I don't. I've done it for a number of years. I am a football fan as well, a soccer fan, but it's just the same players play for each team, and I don't like that aspect of it. Whereas I love the draft anyway, the process as a whole, scouting players, and I also love fantasy drafts as well, and assembling a team and team building and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my wheelhouse right there. So yeah, I enjoy fantasy. I love it. So nice to get a win under my belt in your league though. It's a 22 team league, so it's interesting. I'm not usually in leagues of that size and magnitude, but so it's definitely a lot more challenging, which I'm quite enjoying actually, trying to dig very deep in the waiver wire and see if I can get anyone that can. There's always some players like Puka Nakua. I think he was like undrafted in most leagues, and then all of a sudden he's one of, if not, one of the best wide receivers in the league, isn't he? So.
Yeah. I mean, it's I do play FPL, but I know what you mean. It's like after a certain point, everyone's got the same players. I think if you
Erling
fall,
Haaland and Mo
yeah,
Salahs, and yeah.
and if you fall 200 points behind
100.
someone in the league,
Yeah,
there's unless you find an absolute gem. I think my mate Adam picked up Dele Alli mid-season and he started performing really well. But
that must have been many seasons ago for him to be relevant.
yeah, exactly. And I think what I love is that you could even go down as far as you could be 8 and 9 or whatever. You could have like more losses and wins in your season. You get into the playoffs, sneak in, and you win the whole thing. Whereas maybe FPL, you don't have that same luxury. And I
Yeah.
do love having a 20-man league, and I prefer having a big league than a small league because exactly what you said. It does provide you to put more effort in to make sure you're checking the waiver wire and all that. And I've got one league I'm in. I created my auto pick league where everyone's on auto pick. No one can have queues, and literally it's like every 10 seconds a pick. and then just like goes to auto pick. So that's a 32-person league, whereas every pick's on auto pick. It's one of my more fun leagues I'm in. It's quite a challenge. Now, Tim, you are our new guest on the podcast, and we like to ask all of our new guests the same question, especially those from the UK. So, Tim, out of all the teams in the NFL, what made you choose the Bills?
So it's a bit of a backstory to this one, really. So I didn't pick for Bills first in a traditional sense. So how I mean by that is I'm quite a new fan, to be fair. Before luckily Josh Allen, so no one can call me a glory hunter or anything like that. I was on holiday at Centre
Well, I would say
Parks.
you got to win stuff to be a glory hunter, so you can't really say that
Well,
even
yeah,
now.
indeed. But there's only one out of 32 teams that can win it, and like even the Lions, I think would be a trendy pick now, even though they've not won it. They've kind of got so that's how I class it as a glory hunter. You might not be winning the Super Bowl every year, but at least you're in it. And anyway, you can't talk. You're a Dolphins fan. When was the last time you won a playoff game? So
I didn't
anyway,
say I was a glory hunter. I'm fully aware of our struggles.
so I don't think either of us can be classified as glory hunters. Let's just put that to bed. I like this though. Like I don't get this obviously with Charlie. This kind of level of banter. It's nice to have be on a divisional rival and to be able to come up with these this bit of banter. So, but yeah. So I was at Centre Parks and I was bored and I went on YouTube like everyone does and I just found myself watching. I can't remember what season this happened, but someone was playing Madden and they were rebuilding the Cleveland Browns after they went 0-16 that season, and the roster was dire and it needed lots of improvements. I was just watching the gameplay of that, and I was just really enjoying it. It wasn't even someone playing Madden; it was just like simming it, and you just watching. So effectively, kind of like watching the game, and I just enjoyed starting to pick up the rules and that aspect of it. So I invested in a copy of Madden myself, and the Bills were my first rebuild. I knew nothing really about them other than, the bad weather. Not even the fans at that point, just that it's really snowy. And I thought to myself, when I've seen half the stadium full and there's a foot of snow in the stands, like those guys must be hardcore. That's what I kept in my mind. The videos sometimes go viral, and I just picked them as my first team in Madden to rebuild, and just enjoyed the experience. And then I just kind of went from there. I liked the logo, I liked the uniforms, and I liked the backstory. It kind of resonated with me as a soccer fan here, being a Norwich City fan. That's again not a glory hunting. It's a small market. It's just not considered a fun place or anything like this. It just resonated to me, and I just thought, what, with how nuts the fans are and how loyal they are, and the fact that they haven't had success, that kind of attracted me to them. So yeah, and then that's kind of been since, I don't know, 2016, kind of the end of the Rex Ryan era is kind of what I remember. And obviously losing to the Dolphins the last game to not make the playoffs. Jay went off that day. That's what got him fired. I remember that as a vivid memory. But yeah, so that's kind of how I became a Buffalo Bills fan, really. And then I've just ever since kind of been gripped. So yeah, I've been pretty fortunate, obviously, in the last 4 or 5 years as part of my overall, I don't know, 6, 7 years of fandom, to have some better days. Obviously, we've not got over the hump, and we should have in 2021, but here we are, and we're still competing, and we're still, got an opportunity to win the division again for 5 straight years. So yeah, that's the story.
So you mentioned you were on Madden.
Yep.
You picked the Bills because of you chose them on a franchise mode.
Yep.
What drew you to picking that team? Because I don't know whether you found out about the snow and about all that before picking the team, the players, but was there something else that maybe drew you to them? If you haven't, it sounds like you only found out about the Bills after playing them on Madden on franchise mode. So what was it about them that drew you into actually using them on the franchise mode in the first place?
So initially, I think it was a game against the Colts, that infamous game when LaShawn McCoy, basically won us the game because you couldn't do it. You couldn't throw the ball in those conditions. I just remember seeing the viral. So I was aware, at least, of the Bills before I played the game. But then when I saw just how cool the uniforms were, the logo, the fact they're in New York, like I had Buffalo, I hadn't actually heard of as a place, and I was not aware as well that Buffalo was part of New York and New York State. So again, it was just a bit intrigued. I was like, well, if I didn't know that about them, and they're closest to Canada. I'm also got some like family connections to Canada, so I've been there before, way before when I was like much younger. So I just thought, just all of these little things kind of came together, and there wasn't any other team really. Like obviously, I've done other franchise modes and that kind of thing, but when I was playing with them, and the snow games would occasionally come on. I quite enjoyed that. So yeah, the logos in uniform though were like the secondary things that made me, yeah, really kind of just go into it, as well as the fact that, as I said, the Knox had success, and they're Tyra Taylor, who, you know, was an okay quarterback. Obviously, still kicking around. He's the Jets' backup at the moment, but I like their style of football as well in a weird way, which is kind of a run heavy approach. And I know Bills in recent years have gone completely opposite with Josh Allen, and it's very 11 personnel, spread offense, pass heavy, and all that kind of thing. But initially, I quite enjoyed the run heavy approach that we kind of played with. And yeah, LaShawn McCoy and Tyra Taylor as a tandem were dominant. They did have the highest rushing performance, stats in the league. I think that was 2016. So yeah, no, all those things kind of culminated into me picking them. There wasn't any other team. There wasn't any other teams in consideration. So yeah, just kind of went straight into it as a Bills fan.
And so to go even further back, now you mentioned that you came across the sport through watching on YouTube in Centre Parks. Now we all know how YouTube works. Normally, you get recommended videos based on what you've watched before. So how did
Yeah,
it come about that you stumbled across it? Because I'm guessing you would have had no previous experience of watching NFL on YouTube. So
yeah,
I don't, I it's very rare chance I'll see any sort of makeup videos or
yeah.
fashion videos, because that's not something I watch on YouTube. So I'm just intrigued how it came across your eyesight when you hadn't maybe previously watched on YouTube any American football.
The YouTube algorithms seem to be quite weird. Like, I know you say that, but I found myself when I've been on YouTube down an absolute rabbit hole hours later, and you do get some odd things come up that you're not necessarily interested in, but they just grab your attention, and then you do start just watching them, and yeah, so I don't know really. So obviously soccer, I didn't watch like any FIFA rebuilds back in the day. Why I was so kind of why I enjoy the team building aspect and the competitive nature of the NFL is I was really into Football Manager back in the day. Like obviously NFL wasn't in my um in my thought process. So in the summer terms, when I was at college and stuff, and you got nothing to do, you got a part-time job, got loads of hours, you'd kind of go to Football Manager and rebuild a team, like on the second division team in Germany and all that kind of thing. I'd enjoy doing that. So I used to watch sometimes some videos of that, but not often. And I think maybe because of that kind of came up. From an American sports standpoint, I've enjoyed basketball before I enjoyed NFL, but I wasn't like loyal to a particular team. I just quite enjoyed watching highlight reels and that kind of stuff. Not necessarily of 2K or anything like that. So I don't really know, to be fair, how I came across it. It was just on the iPad. It just flashed up, and I don't know what kind of drew me to even press on it to watch it really. I think it was just pure boredom. We were kind of having a downtime. It was an afternoon, and I just started watching it, and I just enjoyed it. Yeah. So who knows? YouTube algorithms are weird, and it just magically came up, and here I am. X amount of years later, 8 years or whatever it is now, and yeah, I'm devout Bills fan and religiously watch the NFL and had my own podcast as well. So yeah, it's a weird way how things went about.
Yeah, I can imagine maybe it was a thumbnail that drew it, because that draws me into a lot
Yeah.
of videos that I wouldn't necessarily watch on a day-to-day basis. Now, the reason you are here is because you are a Bills fan, and of course, I like to normally, in the years gone by doing this podcast, try to get a guest on the podcast either to review the game or preview the week of the fan my team plays. So as you may or might know, may or may not know, listening to this podcast today, the Dolphins do play the Bills on Thursday Night Football, and you are a Bills fan, I'm a Dolphins fan. Perfect place to start the week on Thursday night. Tim, who's winning the game?
Well, it's an interesting game, and you can't take too much out of week one. So I'm not, you've been on our podcast. I've told you already that, only a couple of weeks ago that, I've got the Dolphins winning the home legs, and us splitting the series. I think the Bills will win the home leg in week 9. I think it is we play again, and I think week 2 in Miami. Obviously, you've said before it's not during the day when you'd like to play. It's at night. It's still looking at the forecast. It's potentially threatening thunderstorms and 29 degrees Celsius, feeling like 38 for the game, and just yeah, it's not like we've gone from the low degrees in Buffalo to coming out and playing those temperatures in Miami. So from a weather standpoint, it's not it's not a terrible transition to do at this time of the year. I don't know. I just think that despite your injuries at running back at the moment, which we can get into, um, the fact you've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle obviously scare me, and I was quite impressed by the defense actually. Like when me and Charlie were debating this last night when we done our preview, but he wasn't quite as convinced as what I was. I thought it was night and day different to what we experienced under Vic Fangio last season as defensive coordinator for the Dolphins. I thought it was a lot more aggressive. We saw more stunts. We saw even fronts as well, which I haven't seen the Dolphins run for a little while now from watching them. And yeah, I think that defense looks pretty good. Obviously, the offense wasn't firing as it usually does against the Jaguars at stages, but obviously the Javon Holland peanut punch, and then the the next play, the Hill not 80-yard touchdown just completely swung the game in your favour. And that's the thing. I always say like the keys, and it is a given, isn't it? Like when you play in the NFL, like having time of possession, winning the turnover battles, they are givens. But it's not as much with the Dolphins because of the speed and the big playability you guys possess. It only takes one play, no matter where you're on the field, one play for you guys to score. So it's going to be tough. And obviously, with our injuries on defense, Matt Milano, we've known since before the season started he's going to be out for a number of weeks, most of the season. And a big loss for us is Taron Johnson. If you pick two Buffalo Bills defenders, you didn't want to lose for a significant amount of time this season, it would be those guys. Taron Johnson, he's a leader of the team. He's one of the best nickel corners in the NFL. That is our base defense, is playing with a nickel corner. He's so good in run defense as well. So I am very concerned. And obviously, this is where Tua is the strongest as well, with play action over the middle of the field. That's my concern, is just how can we manage you guys in the middle of the field, and being aware in zone coverage. Usually in previous matchups, played really well against the Dolphins, and we've always been able to get Tua to kind of go away from what he doesn't want to do, or he does want to do. We try and get him to throw outside the numbers on the perimeter, which isn't his strength. He doesn't like to do that. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough in this game. So I did go for, on our podcast, Dolphins to win 30 to 24. I do feel better about the Bills coming in from week 1. Obviously, it was a slow start from us. We were losing 17-3 at one stage in the first half, but it's very encouraging how we kind of turned that around. And also the Bills defense, it's usually very stingy in recent years. We always have like a top 5 defense from DVOA and all the kind of key stats that you look at, but they do struggle in the big moments to kind of get those turnovers and the sacks that can change the game in our favour. Yet against the Cardinals, and I know it's the Cardinals, but I think their offense is going to be pretty good this year. We were able to get sacks on third downs, critical third downs. Gregory Rousseau is Defensive Player of the Week in the AFC. He's really strong. Both run defense, which he's always really good at anyway, but his pass rushing has really come a long way. And Von Miller, again, he's done more than he done last season in the entirety. He actually got a sack against the Cardinals and he looked better. He just looked, he's not, what we've seen in the past, obviously at the Broncos. He isn't even looking quite to the levels that we saw before he got injured against the Lions in 2022 when he was playing at the high level and he was carrying our defensive line. But it definitely looks better from that standpoint. And I do think that I saw your interior offensive line, and I think it's Rob Jones, is it, for left guard? And these guys weren't able to anchor, even though Tua releases it fairly, has the quickest release last season. I think he'll try and hold on to it a bit more and let plays develop a bit more this season. But his quick release, even he was struggling to get the ball out sometimes just because you guys can anchor. And I think Daquan Jones and Oliver could get some good opportunities and could apply a bit of pressure to Tua, which is, all you're looking for, really. So I think it's a very interesting matchup. It's divisional. Who knows what's going to happen? You look at these two offenses and you think they're going to score a lot of points, but it's a divisional game. They don't quite ever work like that. Look how cagey it was in week 18 to decide the division. So yeah, that's where I kind of stand on it. What about you from the Dolphins lens? Like, obviously we talked and you predicted a win for the Dolphins. So are you still expecting the Dolphins to win? And has anything changed since we last spoke?
Yeah, if I'm honest, when I came on your podcast and when I was thinking about it myself, we did our season predictions episode, Dolphins season preview one, and I did, have the Dolphins winning week 2 and then the Bills winning week 9. But then after watching week 1, and I'm fully aware, as you said, week 1 isn't really representative of the rest of the season. I didn't see much in our offense. I obviously saw the big play from Tyreek and the way we closed out the game, but that could have easily gone the other way. If Javon Holden doesn't punch the ball out of Etienne's hand and then we don't score from the first play with Tyreek Hill, that's basically a 14-point swing in the space of 2 plays. So I think, if I'm honest, Tua got a bit bailed out by the defense in this game. Well, I'm fully aware that he may still made the throw to Tyreek Hill. It was 50 yards after the catch, and I did feel like there was times of a struggle. And I think you summed up really well. And I do think the Bills win this because I just feel like, as well, we haven't got the weather advantage as much because we're playing at night time and it's all that attached. I think if we're playing you at 1 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. UK time, I do feel like it would have been, in the end, a Dolphins win. And I think if we played better week 1, I'd be even more confident. But I just feel like with how he played against Jags and just how the Bills have tormented us in recent years, really, Josh Allen's 8-2 against us, and it's just, I'm hoping I can be proved wrong, and I am, watching it basically Friday evening because I'm recording it while I'm watching it. I'm basically avoiding the school the whole day. I'm going to get home from work about 5:30, 6 in the evening, and I'm going to watch it because I'm not allowed, in my work. I'm not allowed my phone, so I can leave my phone off all day. So I make sure I don't go on any sports websites, particularly BBC Sport or The Guardian, and I think I'll be okay because I've been there a month now. Not a single person has mentioned NFL at all, apart from when I've talked about it. So I do feel like I'm in a good place to avoid hearing about it. So it's not like I can be on BBC News anytime soon. So that's my plan. I'm hoping when I get home Friday and I watch it, full game replay, ad-free, I'm hoping that will be, a win 2 hours later. But I just think that until we beat the Bills regularly, I just have no confidence because they are. You probably say yours is the Chiefs, but you're our kryptonite, and I just don't.
Yeah.
I was pleased with the defense. I think there were some great stops made. You think about, some of the third down stops we made in that game. What were brilliant, and the Jags have easily got that first down, closed out the game, and they did it because of our defense. And I was really impressed with that because you lost, two key parts, and or I'll say one key part in Wilkins. Van Ginkel was not as important, but he's still a bit underrated.
Yes,
and obviously you have no Bradley Chubb either. He's obviously on the defense injured, but Jaden Phillips comes back, makes a play, and that was really good to see. And I was really impressed with that and the third down stops and just, a difficult first half, but I don't think he had a single point in the second half. It was just a tremendous display from our defense. And Anthony Weaver, for first game as our DC,
yeah,
pretty good job, I'd say. And I think I may have forgotten a game, but I think I think the Jags are a good team. They're not a great team, but they're a good team. I think I didn't see many of those last year against a good team be that good on defense. So for me, I think already Weaver's done just as much in game one and Fangio ever did in his one season with Dolphins. So,
and I think for additions of Calais Campbell and Jordan Poyer, just to bring, I know you've had veteran players on defense, but I do feel like previously the defense has been quite, I don't know, weak. Mentally, I'd say maybe like, yes, you've had Christian Wilkins, and I've always hated playing to get up against him, but I don't know, it's just been quite a I don't know how to explain it. It just raises the floor, I think, for Dolphins defense. I think those moves are pretty underrated. Like on the face of it, it's 1 year kind of level contracts to those types of veterans, but just to kind of bring that professionalism and that experience and know-how, they've been there, done it, won plenty of games at this level. I think that's kind of an underrated factor in the Dolphins defense as well. So isn't it funny though? I find it quite ironic that we've been giving each other banter already, and we're tipping the other team to ultimately win this match. So that's not lost on me.
No, it's I think the same thing happened last year when I had Dave Caproche on, or was it Charlie? One of the Bills fans on last year.
Yeah.
Same situation. I said the Bills would win. They said Dolphins would win. And it's funny how that works out. Moving on though to the Sunday slate, the 6 p.m. slate. The Ravens host the Raiders. I'm going for the Ravens to win this one. I just feel like the Ravens almost won week one against one of the best teams. You give a Raiders team that lost their first game against a team that everyone thinks is going to do badly. I think this Ravens team is too strong. Even without that taken into the consideration, I think you've got a tremendously run team with Jim Harbaugh. The players just pound for pound a lot better than the Raiders, and I don't see any way at home, their first home game of the year, their season opener at M&T Bank. I think we don't do lock of the week on the show, but I think this is my lock of the week if we can do that, because that for me is just such an easy one to predict. I'm going for the Ravens to win. Tim, who are you backing?
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. I think that, as you said, they're inches away, even centimetres away from winning against the Chiefs. I know they could have, I think they'd have gone for 2 points there, conversion to potentially win it rather than take it into overtime, so we know how efficient the Chiefs are. The defense didn't look great, but, they'll put it together. The Chiefs can make any defense, no matter how good your defense are. They're going to make them, look silly at times. And also the rest advantage. I've had a couple of days extra rest. First home game, obviously, they're looking to get back to 500. And yeah, in terms of the Raiders, I think they're going to struggle this year. I like parts of their defense. We talked about Christian Wilkins. Max Crosby is potentially the best player on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL. Just his motor and how productive he is as a pass rusher. They've got good. I think they've got a good defense, but you're kind of capped by your quarterback play and Gardner Minshew. He has the odd game here or there where he's able to, we've seen it, haven't we? His resume at the Jags and Colts, we could see he can win games, but not to, a consistent level, and he doesn't give you high ceiling plays. So yeah, I think they will struggle this season, and I think probably Devontae Adams will probably be gone before the trade deadline as well. So yeah, no, I fully agree. Ravens win quite convincingly, I think.
Yeah, I don't see any way Adam stays. I think that for a guy who seems to love where he lives, I can see. Would he want to? If he's happy there and his kids are happy there, is he going to want to move? I know he moved there a
Yeah,
couple of years ago, so he's happy to move before. I just don't feel like a guy like him can go his career without winning a Super Bowl. I just don't feel like he is. He shouldn't be. I know Randy Moss hasn't won a Super Bowl, and he's easily one of the best ever to not win it. Maybe the best ever player not to win it. But I just feel like he's not even been close. He's made one conference championship game, maybe two. One of them was in the COVID year. I remember that one for the Packers. Oh, and maybe the one where they lost to the Niners the year before that. But a
yeah,
guy who's been played Aaron Rodgers and played as a talented quarterback, and for a guy not to even make a Super Bowl, let alone win one, seems crazy to me. I think at some point he's going to want. I know he probably thought he was getting out with the Raiders, but he wanted to chase a ring, and I think he has to try and do that. If he wants to have a career he looks back on with a lot of memories, then it can't just be about the money. So for me, surely he'll make the move at some point. Next up is probably on paper the worst game of the week is the Chargers heading to Carolina. Apparently they're selling tickets for as cheap as $1.80. Tickets, which is crazy. A game which we mentioned before in the Panthers season preview, a game which friend of the show Keg is going to, his first ever experience in Charlotte on his honeymoon. So if you are listening, Keg, have a great time at your first ever Panthers game in Carolina, and I hope for your sake you'll win. But I don't think you will. I think the Chargers get the win. I don't think they were actually anything too great to scream about in their win against the Raiders, but I just think that's because the Raiders were bad. I didn't know. I don't remember watching any of that game on Red Zone. Whilst I was watching it, probably a bit tired at that point. I don't recall anything that really gave me, massive excitement about the Chargers. I don't think I saw anything that made me go, "Wow, they're going to surprise teams this year." I think they're just lucky to be against a bad opponent. So I'm going to give them the win to make them go 2-0. But I think that could be a very dodgy 2-0. So going to give the Chargers a win, even in Carolina. I just don't. I think right now it's teething problems all around. Bryce Dunn looked awful against the Saints. The whole team did as well. New head coach for both teams. So I think ultimately the Chargers get it done.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's a bit disappointing because before the season, I had the Panthers to be more competitive. I know it's only 1 week, but just some of the plays that I saw, there's one play where Miles Sanders had to kind of push Bryce Young along a little bit because he wasn't lined up, directly behind the center to take the snap, which I've never seen before. And just if you're doing that kind of thing, you're not being in the right place as a quarterback, then how the hell can you expect to, orchestrate the offense and, go through all the pre-snap reads and make it? Yeah, it's weird. That was one of his strengths at Alabama, so I don't really understand it. I don't know if it's just purely a confidence thing and it's shot, but I really thought with Dave Canales and what the job he's done with Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith, like I thought that, we all thought at one point Baker Mayfield, there wasn't any, return, and he's become, a solid quarterback at the Bucks now. So I really did have some optimism that David Canales could go in there and, not make him a top 10 quarterback necessarily, but just increase his floor and, not be the reason why they lose games. And it seems to be, unfortunately, that he's just not. Plus, you've also got, you look at the defense on paper for the Panthers, it's even weaker now. Derek Brown going on season-ending IR, who is probably their best defensive player, especially in the trenches. They've not really got anything else. Davian Clowney, but he blows hot and cold as well. So, yeah, it's not a good recipe. And for the Panthers, they could be looking at a really bad season again. I hope not. I do hope they turn it around. I hope to see some improvement from Bryce Young. I put a lot of stock in fantasy when I've been doing best balls and stuff, just because his value is so low. I thought, he's not going to surely be as bad as his rookie season. They invested Deontay Johnson. They bought, a couple of guards in. Obviously, one that you're familiar in from the Dolphins, Robert Hunt. And yeah, I just thought they invested. They've got a better head coach who's going to play better, but it just looks. It's only week one, and I know you can't take too much away from it, but it really did not look good from the Panthers. So, and again, you said from the Chargers standpoint, they've not shown anything from the Raiders to make you think, oh, here we go. The Harbaugh brothers are back. They're going to turn it around. The Chargers themselves. So yeah, I can't go anywhere other than the Chargers winning this game.
Yeah, well, the Panthers fan thought they'd be singing this season by yards, the only way is up, but they're now singing "Sugar, we're going down by four." That boy, it's been it could get worse. The Panthers fan probably thought we talked about it with Keg, when he came on the podcast for the Panthers season preview. Can't get any worse than last year. Now, it might well get worse. I think this is, for me personally, the nearest thing we'll get since 2016 to a team going 0-16 or 0-17. I think there's a good chance. Now, they'll find a win somewhere. The NFL works like that. But I think this is the nearest chance we've had since that Browns team in 2016 to have a win this team. I think this team could generally go win this. I think they're that bad in every department. I don't have any faith in this team. There's no one screaming to me, with Derek Brown, especially now he's injured. No one to me that I think they're going to win them games. Adam Thielen, if he's your best option at the age of 60 years old, it's not what you want to win your games. As good as he is and great as he's been, certainly last year in Carolina, is he enough? I just don't think he is. I think the O-line's not great. The receiving option is pretty bad. He got a new guy, Xavier Legette, who could be the number one guy. Mingo hasn't worked out like everyone thought it would. And then the defense, the one guy they had of any hope was Derek Brown, injured for the whole year. So for me, it's looking bleak. And I'd say Panthers fans, it could be worse than last year. Moving on though to the next game, which is going to be in Dallas as the Cowboys take on the Saints. Pretty easy for me. Cowboys win. I know the Cowboys have this tendency to lose games they shouldn't, but I just feel like the Saints, that win was just papering over the cracks because of how bad the Panthers were. I don't believe in the Saints. I don't believe in Derek Carr. Certainly don't believe in Dennis Allen. So I'm going to give the Cowboys the win. It's as easy as that.
Yeah, the vibes are really bad around the Saints. Obviously, a convincing win, I don't even think helps, to be fair. Like, you'd not expect it because we didn't know necessarily what the Panthers were going to be walking into this season. As I said, I thought they would improve. Who knows? It's still week one. They could. I know you said you don't think so, but they could. And I just think the Cowboys actually look better than what I was expecting. A couple of the younger players on defense, Overshawn, who's a off-ball linebacker, and Marshawn Neeland, who is a rookie. I really liked him, stepping up and making some big plays already. So the defense looks as advertised, even better than what I was expecting. And on offense, obviously, the Dak thing's wrapped up in terms of his contract, CeeDee Lamb. So they've not got, that constant speculation around the team now. They can just go out there and play. Obviously, there's always going to be speculation around Mike McCarthy. And he's got to go beyond just the playoffs and winning the division to probably secure his job. So there will be some noise around that. But if they keep playing as they did against the Browns, and we'll come onto the Browns, I'm sure shortly. Deshaun Watson, he's a shadow of himself, so you can't read too much into it. But it's encouraging, and from Cowboys perspective, that's all we could have asked for in week one. So yeah, as I said, it's at home. First game of the season for those guys at home, and yeah, I've gone for a win there.
Well, let's get on to the Browns. So, may as well. They're one of the 6 p.m. games. They travel to Jacksonville. I think the Jags win this. I think if you ask me start of the year, Browns all day long. I really do think. You asked me even just 2 weeks ago. I said the Browns team wins this game, but nothing changed me regarding Watson. I still think he's as bad as he was before.
Yeah.
Since the last year. But the Jags team really surprised me in a good way. They looked really good on defense. Well, for most part, I think they obviously collapsed second half. But I think what I saw in that first half alone, I was really impressed with Lawrence, really impressed with Brian Thomas. And the defense, with Eric Armstead there, he looks a great addition. And we all know what his qualities are already. So I think the Jags win this at home as well. Their home opener as well. I just feel like, the Jags, even though they're playing a better defense than the Browns, I just don't have any faith in Watson. I think he's been pretty bad. And they obviously haven't got Nick Chubb anyway. I think, albeit a better defense in Dallas than there is Jacksonville, but I think ultimately, the Jags get the job done. Who's winning this game for you, Tim?
Yeah, I've gone for the same for Jags. And it's not as much about what they're able to do and the performance I saw in week 1 against the Dolphins. It's more, about the ticking time bomb that is Deshaun Watson. And I think it's going to be one of the most interesting storylines will be, I can't see any way back really for Deshaun Watson. I found it really weird days before the season, they restructured his contract. So, save cap this season so they can obviously, with the multiplier and stuff. I don't know quite how it worked, but I just felt it was weird that you've created more dead cap in the future because he's not proven anything in a couple of seasons that he's been with the Browns. And some of the plays, some of the throws he had in week 1 against the Cowboys, it's not like he's just missing his targets and his weapons. He's, by a little bit, it's quite significant, like 10 yards away from the receivers at times. Like, it's really worrying from a Browns perspective, and it's all, the rest of the roster, they've got it pretty much. It's all on Deshaun Watson. And I just wonder at what point, if Deshaun Watson keeps playing like this, and I really do think he will, I can't see a way back that he's going to get back to the heights of the Texans or even close to that to be an adequate quarterback to, stay at the Browns and then just kind of take the cap hits that they're going to get from the dead cap and all of that stuff. I do wonder at what point, if they try and ride him all, out for the rest of the season, if they bring James Winston and Dorian Thompson, Robinson or whatever his name is, in earlier. I think it will happen if he keeps this up. But I do think at some point they'll change him to another quarterback. But Jags. I think the defense are actually quite a bit better and quite underrated. I think they'll have a better defense than what they've had in recent years. And Trevor Lawrence, I'm not too sure. I understand why they paid him. I don't think he'll ever be a top 8, top 10 quarterback like everyone thought he was. Obviously, everyone built him up as a generational quarterback at Clemson, and you could see why back then. But I just think he's quite sackable, and he's able to scramble. Don't get me wrong, but he just doesn't do enough. His pocket awareness isn't great, and he's suspected making mistakes as well. So, but again, the Browns, they only go as far as Deshaun Watson allows them to, and I really think he's one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL at the moment, and I don't see that changing. So, Jags at home for me.
Yeah, I didn't see any back for Deshaun Watson. I really don't. I just think he's sadly at a point of no turning back. Tim, Lions hosting the Bucks. Who wins that one?
So, when I do my pick'ems, and I don't just go with the favourites and go with chalk. I do try and see where's the opportunities, because every team, even the Chiefs, they're going to slip up 1 or 2 times during the season. It's unlike, it hasn't happened obviously since the Patriots done it in I can't remember what year that was, but you don't go 100% during the regular season. You are going to slip up. You are going to lose a couple of games, and for this one, I've gone for the Bucks to get the shock and win at the Lions. Obviously, it's all good vibes around the Lions. Everyone's got them, as the fate, or one of the favourites, definitely amongst it for the NFC Championship and getting to the Super Bowl. And I certainly rate the Detroit Lions. I think they've got, the roster's really well rounded. They're going to have, it's not just a 1-year window. They've got really high-end rookies, your Sam Laportas, your Jamar Gibbs, those kind of guys that are on rookie-friendly deals. They're going to be competitive for a number of years further down the line. But I just think that the Bucks are quite rate the Bucks. Obviously, Todd Bowles is a defensive mind, and he's actually quite impressed me in the last year or so. And I mentioned Dave Canales and what job he done in Baker Mayfield, but the defense is always, pretty strong, despite not having on paper, the highest names for like most vaunted units in the league. He seems to do a good job, making them a well-drilled unit. I just think, I think the Bucks, they could surprise everyone and they could get a win here. So I've just gone for the Bucks. These games sometimes happen. It'll be a tight game, I'm sure, but I think they've got enough in them, the Bucks, to pull off an upset here.
Well, that is a surprise. I've gone for the Lions winning this game. I just think that it's hard.
I don't blame anyone for doing that. I really don't.
No, I mean, they looked. We mentioned before in our week 1 review with Fletch. Do check out if you haven't already. But I was really impressed with the Lions. I know they almost had a massive collapse, but I think they on offense are so complete on offense. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
From the O lines, the 1-2 punch in the running back room, or the receiving help, and Jared Goff himself is quite more than serviceable. He's probably top 10 quarterback. But yeah, I just think that it's hard to gauge the Bucks. With a win against the Commanders with a rookie quarterback and a head coach who's not been head coach in a few years, wasn't great when he's last head coach towards the end. Seemed to completely struggle after Shanahan left as the OC. So it's hard to gauge how good the Bucks were. Mike Evans had a tremendous catch in that game, and he, had a tremendous performance. Godwin was good as well, and I think that they are a good team. I think they'll make the playoffs, or just missed out on the playoffs, I should say. But I do think the Lions win this game. I think and they're at home as well. For me, it's just all round good vibe there right now. Atmosphere was loud against the Rams. It'll be the same again against the Buccaneers, and I think they win this game. Now, Colts of Packers. Now, you asked me this before the Brazil game. I would have told you Packers win this game because Packers are my team to win the NFC in our predictions, and I'm still sticking by this because Lev is out for a few weeks rather than the whole season. But I do think they'll have a few games where they will struggle without him, and I think this is one of them. I think the Colts were so close to winning it against Texans. Richardson looked every bit as good as I think he'll be this year. For me, the throw of the week came through him in that Texans game last week. And I just think against a quarterback like Malik Willis, who, let's face it, can't think anything good he's done. I know he's had very small amount of playing time and mostly as a backup, but when I've seen him play, nothing about watching him ever impresses me. So I think with that, even if it's Tannehill, even if Tannehill comes in and I think even if it is Tannehill, we saw how bad he was towards the end at Tennessee. So I'm going to give the Colts a win. I just think that if there's any time to play the Packers at Lambeau, this is the one because, Malik Willis is not the one, and I think the defense gave a lot of points, against the Eagles last time out. The Colts did as well, but I just think ultimately that means it comes down to quarterback battle, and I just think Willis is nowhere near on AR's level. But for you, Tim, who's winning this game?
Yeah, I've gone for the same, the Colts, and I'm very much the same with you in terms of if Love was available. I think everyone would be picking the Packers, but as you said, Malik Willis, how I see him is like an even lower like Justin Fields. He's kind of got that mold in terms of being extremely gifted athletically, and he's able to make some really great plays with his legs, but he's just really raw as a quarterback, and he's just got a lot of things to learn. And it said a lot about what the backers thought about the existing quarterbacks to trade for I think it was like a 6th, 7th round pick, future pick, not even to be used this year to kind of acquire him. And they said straight away it was our QB2. And I was thinking at that point that spells some trouble if they did get Jordan Love injured, and that's how it worked out. So, yeah, it's not a good sign, and for the Packers, and I think they'll struggle. Obviously, their defense. I watched some of the match against the Eagles, and I think in the first half it was just the slippery conditions that kind of allow the Packers to turn the ball over. So yeah, I've gone for the same. I've gone for the Colts to win as well.
Yeah, that is totally fair enough. Yeah, they're going to be interesting game. That will be an interesting one, I think. Now, two games I think personally are not even worth talking about. So easy to predict. Niners at Vikings, Seahawks at Patriots. I think Niners and Seahawks for me easy wins. I know the Bengals lost to the Patriots, and I think that's almost like a week one sort of anomaly. So I think they'll come back to reality against Seahawks. I think yeah, the Niners win and the Seahawks win, and I think the next game I want to focus on is Jets Titans. Titans won, that was such a unlucky loss. They really shouldn't have lost that game at all. There was a terrible throw by Levis, and I just feel like even though the Jets lost, there were parts that impressed me. I think they got better towards the end. I'm fully aware that it may be just Niners put their foot off the gas, but I think there was enough there to make me think that they're going to win this game, even though they're on the road in Tennessee. And I hope they lose because I don't want the Jets ever doing well.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're the same, Tim. I'm sure you're the same as me regarding the Jets, and I think ultimately, yeah, they will get the win. I think this could be one where you could put the Titans, maybe, but I think ultimately this will be, a Jets win, and they'll start their what is a really favourable 4-game streak. But for you, Tim, quick prediction on Niners, Vikings, and Seahawks Patriots before your prediction on the Jets Titans.
Yeah, I've gone for 49ers and Seahawks there as well. I think the Vikings, I think that'd be quite a close game, closer than what people think. I think that Brian Flores has done an amazing job with the defense based on the talent that it's got. So I think that'd be a closer game, but I do still think the 49ers are going to win that, and Seahawks as well. In terms of the Titans and Jets, I think I've just picked the Titans, and the only reason why I've really done that is, again, I don't try and go chalk. I do see a scenario. It's the Titans' first home game of the season. They look better than what I was expecting from them in week one. And again, you can't take too much from week one. I know that. But I just think, like, why not? There's an opportunity there. They're at home. The Jets, in terms of their defense, wasn't as strong as I was expecting. The Titans' run game looked pretty good. I'm really high on Tajay Spears. I know Tony Pollard has seen most of the carries so far, but I think their rushing attack will be very good this year. So yeah, I've just gone against the grain and gone for Titans in that one.
And then our final lot, the 6 p.m. games, is another bit of a stinker. Commanders hosting the Giants. The Commanders win this game. Now, I'm not convinced by Dan Quinn for everything I mentioned before about the Bucks win against them. But equally, I think the Giants are even worse. And I think this one could get ugly. I think it could even be like a 10-6 win for the Commanders. I think Daniels has shown more potential right now than Jones in terms of being good this season. I just think that neither defense really impresses me either. And I know Dan Quinn, is a defensive specialist, but they let up 37 points against the Bucks. For me, I think both teams, this would be a really sloppy game, but Commanders win it.
Yeah, I've gone for Commanders as well. You can't really go with the Giants based on Daniel Jones. You just can't at the moment. He's not shown anything remotely close to his form in 2022 when he got that big contract extension, which I'm sure they're regretting now. Jalen Daniels, I like what I saw against the Bucks. I feel like you can sprinkle some stardust into that Commanders team. I think that he's not necessarily highest ceiling quarterback, but he's able to make wow plays and bring a bit of wow factor, especially with his legs. He had 88 yards rushing. I think he's going to be one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the league, up there with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, really. So I think that's the difference in this game. It's Jen Daniels. So Commanders win as well for me.
And moving on to the later slate, the only one at 9:05 before the 9:25 lot. Rams going to Arizona against the Cardinals. Tim, who's winning this game?
So divisional game, always hard to predict, and they're both 0-1, so they're going to both be eager. You know that if you don't pick up a win early in the season, your odds to make the playoffs goes drastically down. So I think they're going to realise the importance of this game. I've gone for the Rams in this game. I think it's a very tight game. And I think that the Cardinals offense, as I've said, I think it's going to be really good. And they started out well, especially against the Bills. But the Rams, I think that they've just got more about them. Sean McVay is a head coach. He's going to have a game plan for Kyler Murray. And the defense, I think, for the Rams looked better than what I was expecting against the Lions. I know they lost the game, but they're able to do certain things. Jared Burst had a good game and had some good reps on the edge. And I think there's more. They've got that culture and that winning mentality a bit more. I like Jonathan Gannon. I like what I've seen from the Cardinals last year as like plucky underdogs and winning a few games at the end of the season. But yeah, for me, Rams, even though they're away, I'm going for the Rams.
This is another one where I'm changed my opinion of what I thought would have been a fortnight ago based on week one. I'm going for the Cardinals to win. I think the O-line issues injury-wise, I think is massive. I don't know when their starters are back, but I think for an extra week, I think it could cause problems again. And I think whilst the Cardinals are not the Lions, granted, I just think that offense could cause some problems. And I think that there's enough defense that could cause problems. I think this could be a shock of the week. I do think the Cardinals get this job done, and I'm probably making a massive mistake by choosing the Cardinals to win. But I think ultimately you've got to be bold sometimes. I am going to give the Cardinals the win. We are a bit low on time. This is due to my technical issues before the podcast started. So we're going to quickly run through the final four games as one-word answers. First of all, we've got Steelers at Broncos. Tim, who's winning that one?
Steelers for me.
Yeah, I've gone for the exact same. One of the games of the week, Bengals taking on the Chiefs. One of the only real pure hatred rivalries in the NFL. I'm going for the Chiefs to win this one. I think the Bengals always start slow, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Tim?
Yeah, they're a juggernaut, aren't they? The Chiefs. I know they sometimes start slow, but from what I saw in week one, that's not. Yeah, I don't think they're going to have the same problems this year. So Chiefs for me again, 2-0 for them.
And next up is our Sunday night football. Houston hosting the Bears. I'm going for the Texans to win. I wasn't impressed at all with Caleb Williams. I think he might go for some rookie struggles early on. So I'm going to give the Texans to win.
Yeah, I've gone for the same. I think they're going to be a bit of a heavyweight as well for Texans this year, based on the Colts isn't an easy game at Lucas Oil, and they're able to get that win. And I think they're just going to carry on and roll on and win that division. So yeah, Texans for me too.
And finally, Monday Night Football, Atlanta Falcons travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles.
So I won't talk obviously too much about this one, but I don't know why. Like I'd done my pick'ems earlier, and I've gone for this one to go against the grain again. I've gone for the Falcons for some reason. I'm highly doubting that upon reflection, really. But I'm going to stick to my guns and kind of go with my initial hunch. Again, there's always one of these games, and who knows, Kirk Cousins, as long as he's protected a bit more. Obviously, the Steelers' defensive line were all over him in week one. So yeah, I'm going for the Falcons. I don't feel too good about it, but that's what I've gone for.
Yeah, you've got to go for your gut. I mean, the worst thing you would want is when you make a bold pick in your head, don't say it out loud, and then it happens.
Yeah.
That was like me and the Bengals Pats last week, and my hunch this week for a shock is the Cardinals beating the Rams. I don't know what the stat line is of odds there, but yeah, I think that could be one of the shocks. Now that is the end of our predictions. We've gone for 4 different outcomes. So in 4 games, so I went for the Bills, Tim went for the Dolphins. In Lions Bucks, I went for the Lions, Tim went for the Bucks. In Jets Titans, I went for the Jets, Tim went for the Titans, and then in Rams Cardinals, I went for the Cardinals, Tim went for the Rams, and everything else we went for wins for the Ravens, Chargers, Cowboys, Colts, Jags, Niners, Seahawks, Commanders, as well as wins for the Steelers, Chiefs, and Texans. And I completely forgot we got another game where we do differently. I went for the Eagles, and Tim went for the Falcons. But that is where we'll end the podcast for today. So first of all, huge thank you for Tim for coming on today.
No worries. Thank you, Andy. I've really enjoyed my time.
Well, it was a good debut from you. Good to have you on for your first appearance. And for those of you who aren't familiar with your work, where can they find you on socials?
Yeah, so if you follow the Twitter account Bills from Afar, you can find us on there. We're right into the mix of a season, so we'll be obviously doing our game previews, game reviews. But kind of what makes us unique is our off-season stuff, and we might try and do a little bit of this during the season as well, but it's hard to find a time. But we like to get Bills fans from overseas on to talk about their vantage point, like how different their experience of following the Bills are from wherever they follow the Bills outside of the US. So that's kind of what we try and do, and as you do, we try and get a lot of local beat on there to talk Bills, and we also try and bring other fans on from teams obviously being on quite a few times now. So that's what we do there. So at Bills from Afar on Twitter, you can follow us on that.
So if you are a Bills fan or just an NFL fan in general and you want to give that a follow, make sure you do. In the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, our Week 2 preview with myself, your host, Annie Davis, and my guest, Tim Rudge from Bills from Afar podcast. And we'll see you guys to review Week 2.